glad, though. Like, I'm glad we're still talking about gender equality, you know, because I know that women aren't equal to men yet because they still give us rape whistles. As if to be like, let the games begin! Seems like a weird weapon. I mean, if you see somebody drowning and you throw that person a whistle, you want that person to die. That is clearly something that a dude came up with. Because the whole reason rape whistles were invented is because yelling rape wasn't working. So some guy was like, I don't know, trick people into thinking there's a football game going on. Stop bumming us out. Which is ironic, because the last people you want showing up to help at a rape is a team full of college athletes.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Management Wednesday, June the 12th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and management of the absurd. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney with the headlines.
But we'll see you again tomorrow. Varney Company picks it up. Stu, take it away.
All right, good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. This is Inflation Day. It is also Fed Day. How much are prices going up and what's the Fed going to do about it? First, the inflation numbers. Here we go. In May, consumer prices came in unchanged. No price gains in that month. In the last year, prices have gone up 3.3%, and that is down slightly from the rate reported for April. This report shows inflation easing just a little. Now, this afternoon, the Federal Reserve is widely expected to leave interest rates where they are now, unchanged. But the Fed watchers will be sifting through every word Jay Powell utters. He could move the markets later in the day. Right now, the market's reacting big time to the inflation numbers. Investors love it. The Dow Industrial, at this point, up 350 points, S&P up nearly 50, and the Nasdaq going strong, up 175. Interest rates going down. Look at this. The 10-year Treasury now yields 4.30%, down 10 basis points. That's a very big move down. The 2-year yields 4.71%. That's down 12 basis points. Again, a big move down. Bitcoin around $69,000 a coin, $69.4 right now. Oil, $78 a barrel, not much to, actually I'll tell a lie, $79.19 right there. The price of gas beginning to move up a little. Regular averages $3.45, that's up 1 cent. Diesel no change though at $3.79. Politics. There's concern that the president's cognitive decline will accelerate following the emotional turmoil of his son's guilty verdicts. Biden is now on his way to Italy for the G7 meeting. Every move he makes, every word he speaks will be scrutinized for signs of further decline. Trump derangement syndrome on full display as the left faces a possible second Trump term. They're encouraging fear and loathing. AOC thinks Trump will lock her up. On the show today, 8 terror suspects from Tajikistan arrested. They had all crossed our southern border. One had used the border app for easy entry. Overseas surveillance revealed potential terror ties. And the chair of Rockefeller International is worried about individual liberty and capitalist meritocracy. He's written a book, What Went Wrong with Capitalism. He's going to be on the show. It is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Varney and Company is about to begin.
And that was Stuart Varney with the headlines. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney's My Take.
Trump derangement syndrome strikes again. The left is waking up to the possibility of a second Trump term, and they are going, predictably, off the deep end. Actually, they're making stuff up, sowing fear and loathing wherever they can. Trump's accused of looking for vengeance. Referring to the Biden team, he said, quote, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them, end quote. That got the left worried. Trump made a joking reference about being a dictator on day one. Those are his words. Of course, the left took that as a statement of intent. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, quote, it sounds nuts, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw me in jail, end quote. AOC conjures this up from the old lock her up slogan from the 2016 campaign against Hillary. In fact, Trump did not go after Hillary. Maybe he should have, because she financed the Russia hoax. Trump said he would deport the illegals. The left jumped on that and completely distorted the whole immigration story, as usual. Rachel Maddow said, quote, what convinces you that these massive camps he's planning are only for migrants? So yes, I'm worried about me. I don't recall Trump saying anything about massive camps, but that doesn't stop a chronic liberal in full Trump-hating mode. The level of fear-mongering shows the level of desperation. The left knows Biden's in trouble, deep trouble, not just in the polls, but also his ability to do the job. He's 81 and in obvious mental and physical decline. So they whip up the hysteria about Trump, trying to scare people. But really, what's more scary? A second Trump presidency where he's trying to make America great again? Or a second term for an aging president with Kamala Harris waiting in the wings? Which is more scary? Second hour of Varney just getting started.
So, again, Donald Trump deserves to get the nomination of his party and deserves to get reelected, and Joe Biden does not. Trump deserves it because he has the experience, because he makes promises and keeps them, and because he's healthy. And President Biden does not because he's unhealthy. Again, President Biden should resign as president immediately. He should suspend his campaign, go home, get with the doctors, go through whatever therapies and whatnot that he needs to get healthy. And then, if he decides that he wants to run for re-election, then go ahead and do it. Until then, all he's doing is allowing himself to be abused by his wife, his sister, and others. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Patriotic Shorts.
We did things from our organization up to, including, and beyond combat. Experimental, innovative, creativity was the key factor, and it carried right on. Our battalion officers in training in Camp Toccoa and from Fort Benning on put chaos in front of us to get us tuned into get frightened, brother, get frightened. And then grab a hold of your courage, take fright apart, and then put it back together again, see what fright made out of you, then bundle the continuous fright based on all the chaos that's thrown. Store that in the back convoluted areas of your mind, and when you need it, you grab it. And if you get into chaos again, you reduce the chaos to danger, and you reduce the danger to some inconvenience, and then forget it. and get on with their combat mission. That was a likeness that he would like to hear about, and we told him.
Why did they stop an SR-71 from entering the hangar when it landed back at Offutt Air Base on April 27, 1986? By the way, did you notice the date I mentioned? April 27, 1986, just a day after the Chernobyl accident in the Soviet Union on April 26, 1986. A 6-hour flight the next day over the Barron and Baltic Sea was about to happen, and the crew of the SR-71 Blackbird was briefed not to fly through any of the Chernobyl disaster's fallout. So, when the aircraft returned to the U.S. after this flight and landed, it was stopped at the runway. The Blackbird pilots found this situation quite peculiar and struggled to comprehend the reason for their stop. Then one person, dressed in very funny-looking gear, came walking up to the plane. The crew noticed his full chemical gear and the presence of a Geiger counter, an instrument for radiation detection, as he approached. He was checking the SR-71 before any of the pilots would get close to anyone. He assured everyone that radiation from Chernobyl posed no threat to the SR-71 during its flight, allowing the aircraft to continue taxiing into the hangar.
She was discovered by MGM when a studio executive saw her photo in a photography studio. Soon, Ava Gardner was appearing in dozens of films in mostly uncredited roles. But after her breakout appearance in the Bela Lugosi horror comedy Ghosts on the Loose, the Army asked her to make war bond appearances, which she readily did. She traversed the country for dozens of fundraisers, never turning down a single engagement. It was at a war bond gala in New York City where she had a chance meeting with Marine John Basilone, who had recently returned from the Pacific to receive his Medal of Honor. Gardner was smitten with the dashing Basilone. "You should be in the movies," she told the Marine legend. "I can help you." Basilone demurred. He had his sights set on returning to the Pacific. "I'm pleading with the Marines to send me back. I need to be with my boys," he confessed to the disappointed Gardner. "Please be careful," she said as she kissed him on the cheek, "and look me up when you come back." She never saw Basilone again.
When the Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi declared the Gulf of Sidra as Libyan territory, he threatened to shoot down anyone who crossed it. But in August 1981, 2 US F-14s and an S-3A Viking crossed this so-called line of death, resulting in dramatic consequences. You see, for years, no one had dared to cross the line, even though it violated international boundary agreements. But on the morning of August 19th, the U.S. decided to test that line by flying an S-3 well within Gaddafi's death zone. And they didn't have to wait long for a response. Soon after the unarmed S-3 entered the contested area, 2 Libyan Su-22s began heading towards them. Lacking defensive systems, the S-3 would have been a sitting duck if it weren't for 2 nearby F-14s, which engaged the Su-22s after one of the Libyans fired a missile but missed. Both F-14s then locked on and destroyed them with AIM-9 Sparrow missiles.
He dropped out of school in 8th grade to help his family make ends meet during the Depression. At 12 years old, he learned how to swim, thanks to a teacher at the YMCA named Dale McGinnis, who assured him it would come in handy someday. His name was William Ingram, and on his 17th birthday, he enlisted in the Navy, following in the footsteps of his older brother. Ingram was on board the USS Houston in February of 1942 when it was sunk in the calamitous Battle of Java Sea, one of the worst defeats in U.S. naval history. Giving his life vest to a friend, Ingram treaded the oily water for 2 days before being scooped up by the Japanese. He was one of only 368 survivors. Ingram spent the remainder of the war working on the notorious Burma Railway, weighing only 90 pounds when he was liberated in 1945. Returning home to Illinois, the first stop he made was to the YMCA to see Dale McGinnis. "You were right," Ingram told the man who taught him to swim. "It came in handy."
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of motivation.
People adapt themselves to the world. Unreasonable people attempt to adapt the world to themselves. All progress, therefore, depends on unreasonable people. Most people are just sheep. They just follow what everyone else does. It happens everywhere in life. And my philosophy has always been this. You can follow the sheep, but it's always going to take you down the most crowded road in life. Instead, go the opposite direction. Your chances are always going to be better and quicker and more efficient than following what every other person is doing, because they're only doing it because they see everyone else doing it in the first place. It's this weird psychotic loop that we all get into that drives me nuts.
Making the right decisions is a one-on-one battle. Whatever the majority of the crowd is doing, find your way during the odds. And see 9 times out of 10 how right you turn out to be.
All great, productive people have this in common. They divorce themselves from society on a daily basis. And if you do these kinds of things, the world will call you eccentric. This is where you got to develop the interior core, where it doesn't matter if people call you crazy.
So you have two options right now. You can either be one of life's reasonable people, or you can be someone who's slightly unreasonable, somebody who demands more from life.
You can be world class, you can fit in with the world, you don't get to do both. This is where you got to develop the interior core, where it doesn't matter if people call you crazy. One of the things limiting you from your income, your impact, a world-class life. You care too much about what people think about you. It served us thousands of years ago. We wanted to fit into the crowd because if we left the crowd, we would die of starvation or we would be eaten by saber-toothed tigers. Now we're in the modern age and we are frightened. We are terrified if we leave the crowd. But you can be a titan or you can be average. You can't do both. And part of being at world class, you've got to really do the prayer, meditation, journaling, affirmation, declarations, and be around people who really don't care that much about what people think of them. One thing I've learned is everyone has an opinion. Why let the opinions of other people deny you from a life that will make history?
Some of y'all, you lying to yourself. You say you want to be great. You say you want to get to the next level. You say you want to be dominant on that field. You say you want a promotion. You say you want to start your own business. But listen to me very closely. You talk too much. Shut up. Go to work and show me. Show me what you got. Show me. Wash the dishes and wash the dishes 100%. Mop the floor and mop it 100%. Go to work and do your work. Don't just go to work when you feel like it. Go to work even when you're down and out. Even when you're not feeling it. Still do it every single day. Work on it every day. Is it that you're not where you're supposed to be because you don't have what it takes? Are you not where you're supposed to be because you don't have the ability? Are you not where you're supposed to be because you don't have the talent? Are you not where you're supposed to be because you don't have the opportunity? No. What it boiled down to is you not where you're supposed to be because you average. Every single thing you do is average. And yet you want to be great and you want to be phenomenal. Forget about it. I'm suggesting to you that if you want to be great, that you're the first in the class and you last for the league, beast mode. I suggest that you study every single page. You take every single note, beast mode. You go to the training and you're listening and you're writing and you're beast mode.
When you want to become a diamond, your whole attitude change, your whole mindset, your thinking, your relationship, the decisions that you make, your energy, all of it changes. See, this is something that you can't be in this business. This business has to be in you.
Continue to work, continue that course, believing in the worthy cause, the end state of it all, knowing that the pressures and the problems coming to welcome you, those are the situations that are going to formulate and mold you into the person you want to be. Accept this as a reality. Sacrifice this day for the investment in the future, greatness.
So I'm telling you, in life, you start running from a class, you start running from a subject that you don't like, it will haunt you for the rest of your natural life. It ain't going nowhere. You got to take that thing out, like, you got to take the breath out. So some of y'all are afraid of math. Go after it. Go get it. Don't run from it no more. Go get it. You go in there and go get that grade. You go in there and get that information so you can pass that class. You got to go get it.
I want you to go in confidence that you've never had before. And every giant in your life, slay him. You go back and slay him. Don't kill him, slay him.
Thank you, and this was a little motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you, and now, Bishop Robert Barron.
My ability to speak articulately is correlated very directly to my ability to hear. If I hear certain voices, I'm going to start reproducing them. That's the way we learn language. A lot of people in our culture, they are attuned to other voices. The voice I've talked about a lot with you of subjectivist individualism, the voice of moral relativism. If these are all the voices we ever hear, that's all we're ever going to say. What's the point? We in our culture are often deaf to the voice of God, deaf to this higher voice that speaks a divine spiritual truth, that speaks of eternal moral values, that speaks of the existence and demand and invitation of God. We're deaf to that voice. And therefore, what? We are inarticulate in our capacity to express these truths. Because we can't hear them, we can't speak them.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, "The fundamental evil of government grants is the fact that men are forced to pay for the support of ideas diametrically opposed to their own. This is a profound violation of an individual's integrity and conscience." Unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the 33 strategies of war.
4. In January 1988, Senator Robert Dole of Kansas could smell victory in his quest to become President of the United States. His main opponent for the Republican nomination was George H.W. Bush, the incumbent vice president in the administration of Ronald Reagan. In the Iowa caucuses, the first test in the primary season, Bush had been lackluster and had finished a distant third, behind Dole and televangelist Pat Robertson. Dole's aggressive campaigning had won him much attention. He had the momentum and was clearly the front-runner. To Dole, however, there was one blemish to his great victory in Iowa. Lee Atwater, Bush's 36-year-old campaign strategist, had spread to the media a story that questioned the integrity of the senator's wife, former Secretary of Transportation Elizabeth Dole. The senator was an elected politician of nearly 3 decades standing and had developed the necessary thick skin, but attacks on his wife, he felt, were beyond the pale. He had a temper that his advisors worked hard to keep under wraps, and when the story broke, he lashed out at reporters, giving Atwater the opportunity to say, he can dish it out, but if someone hits him back, he starts whining. Then Atwater sent Dole a 10-page letter enumerating the many times the Kansas senator had gone negative in the campaign, and this letter, too, made its way into the media. Dole was furious. Despite his victory in Iowa, he could not get over seeing his wife dragged into the dirt. He would get back at the Bush folk and Atwater. Next up was the New Hampshire primary. Victory here would put Dole well on his way, and he was ahead in the polls. But this time, Bush came out fighting, and the race tightened up. The weekend before the vote, the Bush people ran an ad portraying Dole as a straddler, a man with 2 faces whose Senate votes depended on expediency, not sincere belief. Humorous, deceptive, bitingly negative, the ad had Atwater's fingerprints all over it. And the timing was perfect. Too late for Dole to respond with an ad of his own. The ad helped propel Bush into the lead, and a few days later, to victory. Shortly after the results of the New Hampshire primary were in, NBC newsman Tom Brokaw caught up with Bush and asked if he had any message for his rival. "Nah," he replied with a smile, "just wish him well." Then Brokaw found Dole and asked the same question. "Yeah," said Dole with a bitter scowl, "stop lying about my record." In the days to come, Dole's answer was rerun again and again on television and discussed in the papers. It made him look like a sore loser. The press began to pile on, and Dole was ungracious. He seemed whiny. A few weeks later, he went down to a crushing defeat in South Carolina, and shortly thereafter an even worse string of losses in the Super Tuesday primaries throughout the South. Somewhere along the line, Dole's campaign had crashed and burned. Little did he suspect that it had all begun in Iowa.
And that was the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now here's 1 minute of Jordan Peterson and some quick commentary.
Jordan Peterson was destroying liberals even back in the day. Watch this.
Well, I'd like to encourage people struggling with this to be kind as their first impulse. You know, we call somebody what they want to be called in our society. Here's a great little tip. What I do is just program in the pronoun next to the person's name in my smartphone. So whenever I'm out and about and I've forgotten whether one of my trans friends uses Z or Zer, I just look it up and it's really super easy. You know, we should have people learning to listen more. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a very good reason.
Yeah, well, kindness is the excuse that social justice warriors use when they want to exercise control over what other people think and say. You know, if we're bandying back and forth our differences in values, you know, I would say that the highest possible value is truth, and that one of the concomitants is that we need stringent protection for freedom of speech so that we can utter the truths that we see fit. And I think that that's a value that's much higher than kindness, for example.
And that was Jordan Peterson. And first thing that what he should have said was to this guy, ask him a question. Why should I listen to you? Okay, because what the guy was doing was saying, what I like to do is, and what he's suggesting here in a subtle way is that there is no reality. There's no objectivity in life. Everything is subjective. Everything is individual. So reality is individual. So he has his reality, I have my reality, and so we have to respect each other's realities. But if that's true, then why should I listen to you? See, that's the short, quick way to deal with this. You can go on like he did and go through this big explanation. Now, he can do it. He does it all the time. He's a professional. He's a psychologist, and he goes out on the talk shows, you know, so he's probably got all this stuff memorized. But you and I, we're not going to take notes here every time Jordan Peterson opens his mouth and write everything down and then keep a 3-ring binder underneath our arm everywhere we go. And then when we encounter somebody like this, say, wait a second, and look it up. No, we need short, pithy little questions or statements to put them in check. So again, the question is, why should I listen to you? And he's not going to have any answer to that because he can't tell me. There's no possible way he can tell me why I should listen to him. If everybody is separate, all realities are equal except as to popularity, there's no reason for me to listen to him. And he knows it. Back in a minute. Thank you. So if you're a Democrat, you need to vote Republican because the Democrats don't care about their constituents, but the Republicans do. The evidence of that is in the House of Representatives, where the Democrats all act in unison, unified. You never hear them talking about or against other members of their caucus. Everybody's unified. They're all marching in lockstep. Whereas the Republicans have a tendency to bicker and whatnot. That's because the Republicans know that it's the House of Representatives, and the Democrats think it's the House of Democrats and Republicans, and they think they're there to represent their party and not necessarily their constituents. So again, if you want to be represented, you need to quit the Democrat Party and vote Republican. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the management of the absurd. Chapter 7, Technology creates the opposite of its intended purpose. The introduction of the washing machine into the house promised to end the plight of the homemaker who was routinely spending almost an entire day washing clothes. But it also gave rise to the idea of wearing clean clothes on a daily basis. The resulting new standards of cleanliness created a need to wash clothes more often, and the actual number of hours spent at that task remained the same. Similarly, the introduction of the computer to make a paperless office actually increased the amount of paper in offices. Technology helps us in countless ways, but it also backfires. The term for this phenomenon in medicine is iatrogenic, meaning physician-induced. Examples are complications from surgery, side effects of drugs, infections that result from hospital stays. There are more than 1,000 different diseases that would not exist if it were not for the practice of medicine and the existence of hospitals. Half the time of any hospital staff is spent treating iatrogenic disease. An unexpected counterforce. The problem of backfiring technology is pervasive throughout the sciences. The field of ecology is full of examples in which successful efforts to intervene in the natural course of events on behalf of some species, usually Homo sapiens, have produced unexpected damage to that very species, damage which dwarfs the original success. In Pakistan, for instance, applying the technology of irrigation and fertilization to land that does not drain adequately has had such adverse effects that more land is going out of cultivation than is being brought under cultivation. Closer to home, we have to come to see that air conditioning pollutes the air, widening highways increases congestion not only in the highway, but in the cities and towns that it connects. Pesticides and preservatives endanger our health. With every application of technology, a counterforce develops that is the exact opposite of what we intended. The danger, of course, is that we become so in love with technological applications that we forget their effect on outcome, so enamored of process that we lose sight of product. In the world of design, the computer has virtually taken over as a replacement for the art and craft employed by the professional designer. All manner of graphics software is available. Almost any experienced computer operator can create graphic designs similar enough to the designs produced by a professional that the difference does not matter much to the untrained eye. But we must ask, is there a missing elegance, humor, and creativity that only a talented designer could have supplied? Are we paying a terrific price for the spread of technology that, while it increases the design capabilities of many more people, actually reduces the opportunity for our most creative designers to apply their skills? Is it possible that the effort to increase design capability will have the backfiring effect of reducing the quality of design? Hard questions. The more we encounter the new gee-whiz technologies, the more often we must ask such questions as, has the use of magnetic resonance imaging technology in medical diagnostic and treatment procedures improved our health or longevity? Has the introduction of audiovisual technology into schools led to better educated students? Has computer-aided design, now pervasive in architectural offices, improved architecture? I'm afraid the answers are still no. The excitement of the new technologies is irresistible. These undreamed-of ways of accomplishing tasks that were previously onerous and arduous. The dilemma, of course, is that it is very difficult to know just in what remote and complex ways they will backfire. But backfire they will. And that was Management of the Absurd, Chapter 7, and next week, it'll be Chapter 8. We think we invent technology, but technology also invents us. And that's by Richard Farson. Back in a minute. Thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute. Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.